Starting off strong with a caffeine hit. I was wondering if you knew we were recording. Winnie's here. Give us a good sit. Hey, Winnie girl. Winnie is feeling a certain way, seeing as how we have 2 extra dogs in the house right now. She is feeling a certain way about having to share even more attention and affection. We'll get through this together. Yeah. Hi kids, welcome back to another pizza party. I'm Mrs. Pizza. Let me show you her face yet again. See this? This is Winnie. Cheese is outside sunbathing, and we have 2 new members of the pack. We've got Fergie and Mika. They've made it into some videos in the past, I believe, but I'm pretty sure they are not going to get up. They are deep in slumberland right now. And we are here to do a recent reads. Why? Because if I wait too long, it's too many books and it's overwhelming. So I like to do this while it's a little bit short. That being said, I'm always somewhere in the cycle of being really far behind and trying to catch up. With my recent reads, I'm trying to be better about staying on top of them. If you've watched one of these before, you know that I am the moodiest mood reader, and I read a wide variety of topics and genres. It is all over the damn place. If you're new here and you've never been here before, welcome. I'm so happy you're here, but also buckle up, Buttercup, because this is going to be a chaos tornado. In this reading wrap up, I have 1 fantasy that is a new favorite. I have 1 book that was recently turned into an award-winning movie, 1 space opera, 2 rom-coms, but 1 that involves a lot more violence than the other. I have 1 nonfiction, 1 book that is so hard to describe, and 1 book about zombies that's trying to make you cry. All right, let's get into it. The first book we're going to talk about is The Everlasting. I absolutely loved the hell out of this book. This is a fantasy romance, but I feel like that I hate giving some things that title because this is not like super spicy slutty times. This is much more of a romantic fantasy. In this story, we are following Owen, and he is a war veteran and currently works for the government in some capacity, but he is absolutely obsessed with this legendary, mythical, historic figure called Sir Una Everlasting. And she was the knight that lived some time ago, and her story has been passed down for generations and become not only a legend and a story beloved by all, but a rallying cry, like a symbol of the country that Owen lives in. When he is approached by someone with a magical item that sends Owen careening through time, and he ends up in a time loop situation with Una Everlasting. We are following these 2 characters as they are stuck in a horrible cycle and a beautiful loop. I loved this. I will put a caveat to this because I know some people are not the biggest fan of time loop situations. I really am. I like Groundhog Day is one of my favorite movies. I love a time loop when it's done well. I found this to be done incredibly well. Even the parts where we are kind of rehashing things we've already been through, it never got boring, it never got stale. I was so invested. I loved Owen and Una. I saw someone say if you ever wanted to read Brienne of Tarth fan fiction, Una is giving very much big lady knight. Not tiny little, like, I'm really good at fighting. No, she is strong. She is a presence. She is Una Everlasting. I really, really enjoyed this book. The next book I picked up after that was Hamnet. I don't know why I picked this up because honestly, historical fiction is one of the few things that usually doesn't make it into my tornado of chaotic reading moodiness. But this was a movie that I was interested in seeing, but everybody knows if you're a reader, you got to read the book first, right? For some reason, it's really hard to go movie and then book, but you want to go book and then movie. Personal, I don't know. Am I wrong? Do you go the other way? I have no idea. I go this way. I assume this is like the only way you can do this. But since I was interested in the movie, I decided to pick this up, and I was pleasantly surprised how much I enjoyed this. It's not large at all. I got through it incredibly fast. If you haven't heard of Hamnet before, this is a historical fiction loosely based on the story of Agnes, also known as Anne, who was William Shakespeare's wife. And we are following Anne as she meets this young Latin tutor who she falls in love with. Subsequently, they get pregnant, get married, live their life together, and they have a son named Hamnet. And Hamnet is what would the word be? It's not a synonym because it's a name. Hamlet and Hamnet are the same name in Elizabethan England. Hamnet was the name of their son. Shakespeare wrote Hamlet. This is obviously taking a lot of liberties, but there's also a lot of truth in this as well. The author makes a lot of I'm going to call it jumps in conclusion, but they're not necessarily outside of the realm of possibility. But there is this beautiful segment in the book where we talk about the carrying of the plague from somewhere very far away to where they live. And it was like one of my favorite parts in the entire book. It was just a really interesting way that this author handled a lot of the information in this. I liked it. I don't believe that we ever actually get William Shakespeare out of anyone's mouth. The character that would be our William Shakespeare is referred to as the tutor or the husband or the father. He is not the main character, but he is the character that is bringing you in to learn more about his family. That's how I would put it. If you like historical fiction taking place in Elizabethan England, I had a good time. The next book I picked up after that was Slow Gods. And this is a space opera that is really hard to describe. In this story, we are following Ma, and he is a former member of a civilization on a planet that is very fascist authoritarian, but they are part of this great system of planets across galaxies, and they all have different ways that they do politics, that they do gender and marriage and how they raise children, and all of these different ways that based on the places you live, the flora, the fauna, the people, how these things kind of progress and come to be. Ma is from this very strict, honestly awful government. So in this multi-universe situation, there is space travel. And because of all of the different ways that all of these different civilizations view everything, they also view space travel incredibly differently. And the planet that Ma is from has very awful ways that they are able to do large space travel. Ma is, for lack of a better way of putting it, sacrificed in order to make space travel possible for his civilization. Most pilots do not live a long time. Ma is put in the pilot seat and survives, and through this survival becomes something other. He is then feared and ostracized from a lot of these different galaxies because he is so different and other from everyone else. And so we then follow this character as he interacts with different galaxies and civilizations and communities and uprisings and all these different things. I really was invested in the first, I would say, third to half of this book. I was really enjoying my time. As we got to the second half, towards the end, I was getting really bored. I don't know how else to put it. It had a lot of potential. There was a lot going on with war and unrest and rebellion and these different entities that are coming to these planets to warn them of dangers that will be arriving at these planets. And each planet responds to this incoming danger in very different ways. Like, that was all very interesting. But as the story went on, I just lost interest, and I can't really put my finger on why. I think space operas are hit or miss for me because I think they get bogged down in some of the intricacies of politics. And though sometimes that can be absolutely riveting, sometimes it can be very boring. And I think the second half of this got a little boring for me. I think I ended up giving it 3 stars, so I didn't dislike it. It was just the first half was so much stronger than the second half. The next book I picked up after that was And Now Back to You. This is the second book in the series that starts with First Time Caller by B.K. Borison. This is a series of rom-coms that are based on romantic comedy movies from the 1990s. This one is loosely based on Sleepless in Seattle. This one is loosely based on When Harry Met Sally. These are 2 characters that you meet in the first book. We have Jackson, who is the local weatherman at our radio station that we spend most of our time in the first book. And we have Delilah, who is the television station across the parking lot's weather correspondent. And these 2 have similar jobs and for some reason don't like each other. They've just rubbed each other the wrong way from the very beginning. And when Jackson and Delilah are approached that they need to work together, there is a great big snowstorm, some big weather event that will be the viral moment. Everybody's going to be tuning in to hear about this crazy snowstorm that's going to be coming through the area. So Jackson and Delilah have to team up to report the weather. This was absolutely fine. It's sweet. You like Jackson, you like Delilah. I ended up liking this just fine. I didn't like it as much as I liked this one. This one I really, really enjoyed. Like, this was a 5-star romance for me. I think I gave this 3.5 stars. I still really like this author's romantic voice. Like, I will pick up anything in this series. I don't know what's coming next, but I like the fact that we are basing it on rom-coms from the 90s. Like, the nostalgia kick is just gonna get me, you know? The next book I picked up after that is There Is No Anti-Memetics Division. I hope I got that right. I got this through the library and the cover is so stinking cool. This is wild. I don't even know how to begin to describe this book. This is a government-run division that there is the Memetics division. Apparently, we are gonna bark at All right, there is a government organization that sole purpose is these entities that if you encounter them or even sometimes think about them, you forget about it. They are constantly removing the memory of their existence. How do you fight something you don't remember? I think the first half of this book was so incredibly strong. It lost me a little bit towards the end, but I still really enjoyed this reading process. I was reading this at work and literally had to show people because there were entire pages where there were pages that were redacted. And I was like, what is going on? Please look at this book. I was so invested. I read it incredibly fast, but it is something that needs to be experienced. Like, I can't really give you anything because it is such a wild, like, the brain of the person who wrote this is so much more advanced than mine. This was creepy and ominous, but also, how do you fight something you can't remember you're fighting? What do you do if you're instantly forgetting what you're doing? This initially started, I believe it was released episodically, now has been brought together to be one book. And you can sometimes feel that in how each chapter does feel like it's starting off a new story, although they are all related. And I feel like towards the end, because of that, the overarching got a little muddled, but still, like, this book is definitely worth your time. It is such a mind f***. But I enjoyed it to the point where afterwards you just can't stop thinking about it. The next book I picked up after that was Everything is Tuberculosis. What is my life? What are you doing? You done? Mika, the angry Ewok, has arrived. The next book I picked up after that was Everything is Tuberculosis. I really enjoy listening to nonfiction audiobooks. I don't know why that is my preferred nonfiction format, but I really enjoy listening to nonfiction. I decided to pick this up because I wanted to know why everything was tuberculosis. And this is a nonfiction giving you a little bit of the social and political impact of tuberculosis, while also giving you some really interesting historical facts about tuberculosis as well, how it has impacted our medical system, our society, and also just like random things that you would never think about, how tuberculosis has honestly touched almost everything in some way, shape, or form through its influence and impact. The one that I always bring up is that the reason we have cowboy hats is tuberculosis. This has a lot of commentary on just how people of color and people of lower economic standing do not have access to the same medical care for tuberculosis, especially worldwide. There are just places where the cure and treatment and diagnosis materials for tuberculosis are available, but money and politics and all sorts of things are hindering those places from receiving all of these things. And yeah, everything is touched by tuberculosis. I would 1000% tell you to listen to the audiobook. The author reads it. He obviously is good at narrating his own books. This was just interesting and will make you slightly insufferable at social gatherings for a little while because you'll have so much information about tuberculosis. The next book I picked up after that was How to Kill a Guy in 10 Dates. I read this one in a reading vlog. It'll pop up over there. But this is a slasher rom-com, which I thought was super fun. This is a silly good time. This is not going to change your life. I had a blast. This is the story of Jamie, and she is, what do they describe her? They described her as like a cinephile. She's really into movies. She works in some sort of like education type setting, but she works in, what would it be? It's like movie theory, I don't know. She's very, I refuse to look it up right now. There's a dog in my lap, and if I'm not petting her, she acts weird. She just acts weird. So Jamie is obsessed with horror movies and rom-coms, and she is writing her thesis, I believe it's her thesis on the intersection of tropes in both rom-coms and horror movies. Well, one day, her and her best friend decide to go to a speed dating event because they are both so wrapped up in their academic studies and aspirations right now that they do these things once a month to basically get them out of the house. They go to these dating events. They're not really interested in finding someone. This is literally outside of their enclosure time. But they go, and while there, the lights go out, and when the lights come back on, one of the guys that Jamie was speed dating is the big dead. And we then travel through a slasher situation from there. Jamie is obviously a scary movie slasher connoisseur. So she knows all of the rules to a slasher movie, how to survive. She is actively trying to keep everyone alive by following the rules of a slasher movie. Every once in a while, she has to break the rules herself, and she knows she's breaking the rules when she does it. This has that meta, similar to like Scream, where if you want to survive a scary movie, you have to do X, Y, and Z, that like meta edge to it. And I had a good time. And I hope that we get more books in this world, because I didn't know that I needed slasher rom-coms, but I did. And the last book we're going to talk about is Elegy for the Undead. This is a teeny tiny little book, and in it we are following Jude and Lyle, and they are a couple. They met during high school, but really started their romantic relationship during college. They've been through ups and downs, but in the opening of this story, you learn that the zombie apocalypse has happened. We are now on the other side of it. During the zombie nonsense, Lyle was infected. He was given some sort of medicine almost immediately that was supposed to stop him from turning into a zombie. We are now finding out that it just slowed the process. So Lyle is going to become a zombie. He has X amount of time until he is completely erased from consciousness, and him and Jude are going back and forth, reflecting on the beginnings of their relationship to when Lyle is bitten and his deterioration. There was some absolutely gorgeous writing in this story, but overall the pace was weird. There was definitely some lines that hit you in the chest, or you just pause and you're like, good God, that was good. There was just like things that were put next to each other, upsets in the relationship versus being chased by zombies. It's like, oh no, we're having troubles within our relationships. Oh no, we might die because crazy, angry zombies are trying to eat our faces. Which one is worse? The zombies, absolutely. So it was losing the weight of the relationship by sticking it next to each other, and the pace of running away from zombies and sitting down and talking about our relationship. It was all over the place. I felt like we were just doing this between different chapters. I think this author has a lot of talent. I think there were some really beautiful things written in here, but overall, it didn't have the emotional impact that it probably wanted to or would have if it had chosen a different way to tell the story. If we had gone in a more linear path instead of going back and forth through time, maybe I would have been impacted more, but overall, this was fine. It was just fine, which I feel like I said a lot in this recent reads. Like, was there a lot of just fine stuff? Well, the Everlasting was great. And there is no anti-memetics. I still don't know how to talk about that book. But that, kids, is where we are going to end this recent reads. If you had fun hanging out with me and an unreasonable amount of dogs, please subscribe. I hope you're reading good books out there wherever you are, and I'd love to hear about them. And we'll see you next time.